Tobin, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks for having me again. Was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah. You were episode 39. We just checked. That's
Yeah.
funny.
And what are we today? Like 150 something?
Yeah, what are we, David? 150.
150 this Friday.
150 this Friday. So this
Amazing.
this specific episode might be like 156 or whatever.
156.
Something like that. That's crazy, man.
Amazing. Congratulations
Been a
on the
long road.
Yeah, congratulations on the success, man. You guys have had some really, really, really cool guests on over the last 2 years.
Thanks, man. We're having fun with it. It's been cool. But what we're looking at now is this old advertisement. And you sent this to me mainly because, well, first of all, it's really fun to look at these old housing advertisements because the numbers are absurd, right? I mean, $3,000 or $4,000 to build this 9-room house.
Yep.
You know, and they're saying, oh, this house would ordinarily cost you over $4,200. Get it today for $3,185. Like, God, what a different world. But what's really interesting is the homes described in these advertisements are modern.
Right. That's
modern house.
That's what drew me to it. Like, as I sit here and try to.
I emailed it to you, by the way, David, if you want to pull it up for people so they can see it.
I try to make I hate the word argument, but I'm making an argument for educating people on what modern residential design should be today, and how people see it and think of it. Because the reality is modern residential design, as we know it now, hasn't gotten a lot of love, and most of that is because of this. It's sort of I call it a phenomenon, but it's an unfortunate phenomenon. I call it developer modern, and that's where developers most developers have one thing in mind, right? It's their bottom line, and especially in the residential market. And so when you have a market that thrives on buzzwords, look at the late 90s and early 2000s. It was all about the Mediterranean revival, and look at how many of those homes were done really poorly.
Yeah.
It gave it a bad rep. You had a lot of EFIS and all this stuff. Now, that's not to say that some weren't done really well. Of course they were, but for the most part, we were fed a lot of garbage, and that has really become a problem with the word modern. Developers hire what usually ends up being, an entry-level draftsman who can do some CAD work, and they say, hey, give me something modern. It ends up being a white box, flat roof, maybe put some black windows on it, and then give it some sort of fancy kitchen with a waterfall island, and now you have something modern. And that's not it. It's not it at all. And so as someone that's trying to do more modern design, and I've leaned into a term I call urban progressive, which I can get to in a minute. But as someone who's trying to do that, anytime a regular, just a normal individual looks at my designs and says modern, well, when they're talking to somebody else, all of a sudden that modern gives my design style a bad rap without them even seeing it or understanding that it's not what they might have, envisioned modern to be today.
And you're an architect, right? So and you're a general contractor. Like, tell people your qualifications. Did you go to architecture school?
Yeah. So I wanted to be an architect since my first Lego set. That whole story. I was like 4 years old. Chased that all the way through. I went to Florida State for undergrad in housing and technical interior design, and then I went on and got my master's degree in architecture and community design at USF, and then decided, I worked in the commercial sector for a while, up until the bubble burst, really, but I wasn't really loving it. It wasn't what I had hoped architecture would always be for me. I always wanted to design homes when I was a kid. When I was young, I was curating my bedroom for as long as I can remember. And so I get through school. I'm working in the commercial sector. It was cool. I worked on some pretty cool projects. I actually worked for Smith Barn Santi Esteban back in the day, and I got to work on some pretty cool high-rise projects. We actually worked on Trump Tower before, the one that never got built, which was a cool project to be a part of.
Where the Pendry is today.
Yeah, exactly. One of my sort of pseudo partners is one of the project managers on the Pendry now. So that's cool to see that happening.
Full circle.
Yeah,
man,
yeah, total. I was working for a firm that did a lot of high rises, and the economy was sort of heading in the wrong direction for that. And one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, I was out of a job. and got back, was bartending and got into some other career moves to just to pay the bills while I was trying to figure those things out. And as the economy came back, I realized I don't think I want to go back and work for a firm and do commercial work again. I want to chase the dream of doing homes. And I thought,
Creativity.
yeah, and what can I do to make that more viable for me, make it, pay the bills. Doing modern homes it's a hard thing. You got to have a portfolio, you got to have people that see that vision. And so I thought, well, if I can go work with somebody and work towards getting my general contractor's license, then I can design my own thing, sort of become a developer. I hate the developer word. Again, it's the D word, I call it, which we can get to. But if I can design my own house in this vision that I have, this style that I have, and build it as my first flagship project, then maybe we can attract people to see what we see and want what we have to offer.
You would describe what you've built, particularly like last time you were on the show a couple years ago, you were gearing up to build the Strata Barn, right?
Yeah,
And it was a
yeah,
super interesting, really never before done look, right? In Tampa, especially in the Hyde Park, Dobieville area.
yep.
We talked about some of the neighborhood meetings and the feedback, et cetera. Now it's built, you've actually sold it. And it looks even better than this picture. And it's really, really unique. And you're saying this is a unique style. It's a blend of a few different things, but you call it urban progressive.
Yeah,
Oh shit,
I
here's the real picture.
yeah, that's the real photo. Um, Urban progressive, it's a term phrase that I came up with to design to describe my aesthetic, and the way I define it is, um, it's modern but not quite Miami or minimal, and it's industrial but still very familiar, comfortable, and welcoming. Which it's kind of a mouthful, but when you look at our designs, you kind of see that. It doesn't. Again, to a normal person driving by, they're going to look at that and probably say modern, right?
Sure.
But it's not the modern that we're seeing by your traditional developers in town right now. It's got a lot of character, a lot of flavor. We use a lot of really like authentic materials, even turning like the metal roof down the sides and incorporating murals like we always do. Um, yeah,
Modern, I feel like, has always meant to be the iteration of like today's architecture. And looking at these old advertisements, modern home, like David, pull back up that advertisement. What year is this, by the way? Do we have a year? This has got to be 100 years ago. So would you say 1920s?
oh yeah, those.
So
Yeah,
so there's one of them, modern home, 264B208, $858. Yeah,
yeah.
zoom out a little bit, David.
They early
So,
early 1900s, definitely, maybe a little bit older than that.
but that word
Yeah,
modern,
yeah.
right? I think it's meant to describe today's sort of demand for architecture, but it's been taken over. It's been taken over by this white box like Miami, like you said, look.
100%. 100%. And I worked on a project with the University of South Florida School of Architecture and Community Design, my alma mater. Um, I
Go Bulls, by the
Yeah,
way.
go
Damn,
Bulls,
son.
right? No kidding. We got
Beat
a
up
big
the
one yeah,
Gators.
and we got Miami. What a schedule they have
Hell
this
yeah, right?
Jesus. Um, yeah, but I was I asked my old professor, he's local here in Tampa, Michael Halflantz, if he thought we could work in a class. Back when I was in USF, early 2000s, we used to do weekend charrettes, and that was where you put all the students from the school, no matter what year you were in, together, and they sort of kind of draw names and you get into different teams, and they give you a design challenge. Pretty cool for us when I was there at that time. Uh, there was an international competition going on for what the Tampa Riverwalk might look like. It did not exist back then. So that was something we got to do. It was really cool, very meaningful thing to be a part of. And I thought, well, if I'm trying to show that modern residential design, when done right, with integrity, a proper design process, that can live next door to historically significant homes, maybe we can do like a weekend charrette, and the students create some models that will produce that. And unfortunately, the school doesn't do charrettes anymore. But Michael, he said, "Hey, like, what if we did a whole semester on it? I teach this class called Tropical House each summer, and I think we could make this work in that setting. And you can pick a couple. uh, uh, project sites in Hyde Park, and we'll roll with it. And so I did that, and the idea was that, and it was really successful. The students were amazing. Gosh, it's a condensed class; it's 6 weeks long, and so what they produce in that 6 weeks is amazing. But the end goal was to give a little presentation in Hyde Park and invite the community to come see what modern might look like today. And so during that time, that's when I was sort of, I don't know how I found those. I think somebody else showed them to me, and they brought up the fact that it's all of them said modern home on it. And so,
That is interesting.
right, so for the
Yeah.
presentation, I printed out like a dozen of them and just kind of had them going around the crowd. And there's a lot of interesting things about it. Like when you look at it, some of them say, "Oh, it's a 4 room house." Well, that 4 rooms means like 2 bedrooms, living room,
Right.
kitchen. Even the way that they describe a floor plan back then was
Well,
different.
modern in the context too, like right with these historic overlay districts, like Hyde Park has a design kind of standard. Seminole Heights has a design standard, and it's meant so that there's a preservation of a look and feel of a neighborhood.
Yep.
Like that's the overall goal, right? To preserve the look and the feel, the character of a neighborhood.
Right.
But when you use the word modern, like, oh, we don't need modern architecture here. Well, it's like this is described as modern.
Right.
So it's like what you're there almost needs to be a new word. Maybe it's contemporary, right?
Something, yeah. And contemporary, when I think of contemporary, I think of a different thing than maybe other people do right now. But you're right. Something needs to happen where we understand that modern isn't just space age. It's just new. Um, you know, the modern homes back then. Here's something that I like to say. Like, if you think about 100 years ago in Hyde Park, there was probably, right now, I think the Hyde Park historic guidelines acknowledge 7 or 8 different, I forget what it is, 7 or 8 different home styles that they actually acknowledge. I like to say, like, 100 years ago, maybe there was 2 styles back then. And what if the city brass back then said, you know what, we really like the way this looks right now. This is it. This is all we're doing. It has to be these 2 styles or something similar to it, and that's it. And you fast forward to today, here we are 100+ years later. What would we be lacking? We'd be lacking all the beautiful diversity and architectural charm that makes Hyde Park what it is. And so I say, like, good is good. Man, I went to a lecture a couple months ago during Design Week at the Tampa Theater. There was, oh gosh, what's the architect's name? He designed this house called the Hill House. And after the documentary, he took some questions, and he designs a lot of homes, modern homes in historic districts. And somebody asked him how he deals with that, and he said something that was just, it was so perfect. It was spot on. He goes, I find that if you bring quality to the table and bring quality into the equation, more often than not, you can win over the crowd. And I thought that was like, gosh, that's so simple. If you just do it good,
Mm-hmm.
then people are going to see it the way that it's meant to be seen. So good is good, no matter what era a home or any building for that matter is from, or how new it might be now. If it's done right, they can live next to each other in perfect harmony. I believe that.
Yeah, and I also think that this emphasis on quality and intention behind design, right? And making a beautiful place and making it fresh and new, and I don't know, something about it, you feel good while looking at it, period, right? Like that emphasis is what makes people tolerable of these sort of envelope bending ideas. Like I think when people hear a modern house in Hyde Park, well, of course, on its face, that it doesn't seem like those two things would match up.
Right.
But there's examples in Hyde Park of modern blending into the community really well. Like there's the house on
There's one on Willow and
Morrison,
yep,
right?
Morrison. There's one on Willow and Bayshore. I mean, I know that's kind of outside of the ARC if you're on
Sure.
Bayshore, but it's still there and it
Well,
still works well.
And even what you've done, right? In Dobieville, it's like those materials, right? The what's it called? That iron that like looks rusty.
Oh, Core 10.
Core
Core
10.
10 steel.
Same steel used as on Swan in
Yep.
that commercial in the
Correct.
restaurant there. It's like when there's an intention behind the design and material, quality of material, it almost makes up for like pushing the envelope too far where you would imagine, hey, this doesn't line up with the neighborhood.
Right. You know, and they, admittedly, I can say like when I bought when we bought our first property in Hyde Park, the ARC didn't govern where we bought, and so really we could build whatever we want. And that little pocket of Dobieville that for the record, I didn't know what Dobieville was, sadly, when I moved in, and now I'm a huge advocate. But all I knew is that we had found this little pocket of Hyde Park, and my wife and I at the time, we could never have dreamed of being able to afford to live in Hyde Park. But here was this little strange little pocket, kind of like dare I say, scary. There was like some
Mm-hmm.
rundown houses and all these things going on, but whoa, we could afford to live there. Um, and so, as someone starting a business and trying to make a statement, I'm like, I can design whatever I want, and I did. And I had sleepless nights, like, gosh, are people gonna hate me? I'm a creative, so I'm a sensitive guy, like I don't want people to hate me, but I'm like, I'm doing this with intention. I'm gonna go for it, and hopefully people will pick up on that. And they did, and it was really amazing. But I still made sure, as different as the first house was, to try and offer even the most subtle gestures. Like if you look around Hyde Park, there's metal roofs, but they're not like those commercial standing seam metal roofs that you see a lot of places that are kind of soulless. I I looked at the metal roofs, you could see the rivets in them, but they were just different. They were more homey. And so when I was looking for a metal roof for our foyer and to cover the skin of this third floor stair enclosure, I went out of my way to find something that emulated that old style of metal roof rather than just going with something new and modern. Again, it's subtle, but it's real. It's honest. And I did that, and then I took that a step further with the townhouses, Strata Barn. I was like, well, a lot of the homes in this part of town are focused on gables, and so I started studying modern gable design, Scandinavian, very Scandinavian look. And the site was super tight. And as I started to design it and realized we are going 3 stories, needed some extra height in the ceilings in the living or in the bedrooms, the roof the pitch got smaller and smaller, and that's how it kind of developed this sort of modern barn look. But at the same time, I'm still taking that metal material, turning it down the third story, and really expressing it on the side of the house. It's not traditional, but it's honest, and it was a real honest intention.
I think the issue too with some of these historic districts is if you try to control too much about the look and the feel, or if you try to force developers and home builders, et cetera, to build exactly the way it was back then, that might not be conducive to today's market. And because you're not going to have buyer interest or tenant interest in that, if the numbers aren't going to work, or if a buyer again, like if you want everyone to build these little 300 square foot homes and sell them for 600 grand in this area, like you're not going to see any movement. Like when
Right.
you first looked at Dobieville, there probably wasn't a whole lot of new construction or really any
No.
action happening in that area. But that you said was before all these overlays were put in place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So again, when we found our land, we didn't know.
Because it's a balance, right? It's like a balance
Sure.
between how do you appropriately recognize the history and the context of this area and move your, or at least speak, you know, your project to those building materials or architecture, whatever, but also keep in mind, like, hey, we operate in the world in
That
2025 and things have to work on the number side,
Yeah,
material side, et cetera.
I could talk about Dobieville forever. Again, I admittedly had no idea what it was when I moved in, and I was really fortunate. Um, the family that lived across the street from me, I want to say to this day, I still believe she was the last living matriarch in the neighborhood. Her name was Miss Rosalie Brown. And one day, I would talk to her kids and everything, and just friendly. And one day, she invited me to come sit on her porch. And again, we were just in the process of breaking ground on our house, but we were always there. And she invites me up to sit down, and you know, simple pleasantries, introduction, whatever. And then the next time, I end up sitting with her. I mean, gosh, at least a half dozen times or more. And it's like the next time she opens up a little bit, like, do you know what Dobieville is? Straight up. And I'm like, no, no, I don't. And that's where I got my education on Dobieville, was from
From the
someone that
source.
grew up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, I was born in this house in it was 1930s. She's like, I was raised here. I raised my family here, raised my grandkids here. I was here before the expressway came through here. She's like, I remember running around these streets when I was a kid, and it was amazing. And we got to really know each other, and it was really, really meaningful. I grew up, I came to Florida in 1984 as a kid from Michigan outside Detroit. Grew up in Brandon and Valrico. And there's the culture out there is different. It's not a whole lot of like diversity in culture, or whatever, right? So, um, but my mom, single mom, a couple of times would bring my sisters and I to Hyde Park Village to get a nice new outfit for the school year or whatever. And the first time I came to Hyde Park, I remember getting off on the Willow exit, and seeing the trees and the canopies and just being like, whoa, this is different. I felt an energy even back then. It must have been 8th grade. I felt that. And I remember saying, I'm going to live here one day. And my mom was, rest in peace, but she's like, you got to go to school and become an architect or whatever. And, when we did it and we made it here, right? Well, now, I'm just a guy that happens to be trying to, live out some sort of dream or whatever. But now I've met somebody who is the history of the neighborhood.
Right.
And my attitude and just the way I saw where I was living changed. I became like I wanted to be a champion for this place. I wanted to do right by it. And the more times I got to speak with Ms. Brown, one time she actually says to me, like, her health wasn't good, and she's like, when I'm long gone, she says, I want to welcome you to my neighborhood. And this is, I don't know, we met a few times, and I'm just like, oh wow, thank you. She's like, I see you, I see what you're doing, and I see that it's real and it's honest. And for many decades now, the city had turned its back on us. This expressway comes through here, whatever. We can go on about that, but she's like, I think that it's really nice that you're here, and you're taking a chance on this part of town that nobody has in a long time. And that meant so much to me to hear that, and again, it was unintentional. I didn't know I was doing that, but then to be here and have that sort of like welcoming was really
So she was in
touching.
her what, like 90s when you
80s, I think, early 80s.
and
yeah.
she was born in this home, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so her, like, did you ask her in a direct or indirect way, like, what do you want to see in the future, right? Like, the neighborhood's grown so much around Dobieville. Like, what did she hope to see?
I wish I could say we got into conversations that deep.
Well, what did she think about what you were doing?
There was her. There was another woman who wasn't a Dobieville resident, but an older woman who lived across the street, and she has since passed as well. I think she was in her 80s or 90s. We put street art on our projects, and so the artist, his name's Basque. He's Czech-born, raised over in Seminole, got his start in Detroit, and that's kind of how I discovered him. He did this big, beautiful mural on our house, and when he gets started, he says, your neighbors are going to freak out. It's going to look like I'm painting a graffiti on a train for these first few layers to get the colors in. I go, it's cool, whatever, let's go for it. Well, I think I talked about this on our last show. It's like within minutes, people are calling us and freaking out. And so this lady,
within minutes,
literally within
as soon as the spray paint
it's
comes
no
out.
kidding, within like an hour or so, I was getting phone calls. But fast forward, the house is done. It's looking great. We really, if you saw the mural now, it's muted. It's very, very tastefully done, and we do it. So we did that on purpose. Like, you could drive by it 100 times and not maybe even see it, but then if you ever notice it, you're like, oh wow, that's cool. Well, I'm outside the house. We just finished it. I'm taking some photos or something. And this older woman walks by. She's walking her dog, and she stops me, and she's like, I need to tell you something. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And she says, I didn't know, I want to do my old lady voice. That would be not cool. But she's like, I just want to tell you, like, I didn't know what, she said, I didn't know what the hell you were doing here when you started. But now that you're done, I want to tell you that, and I didn't know this woman at all. She goes, I'm proud of you. She's like, I really love what you've done. It's beautiful. And she was kind of another welcoming thing. And to me, it was like, whoa, like,
It sounds
man,
it sounds to me like these people that have lived in that area their entire life, that had not seen anyone take a chance on their neighborhood to build anything new, to be creative. Yeah. It sounds like their whole emphasis was, hey, thank you for trying it out here,
Yeah. I guess so.
even though clearly it came with apprehension on their side. Clearly they were like, what is this?
What's going
What
on?
is this guy up to?
Yeah.
But it sounds like by the time your product was finished, they were happy with you and thankful for you.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And
Well, it
even,
sounds like they told you, right? I
yeah,
mean, if
yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
hey, thanks for,
Yeah, I guess it's a humbling thing. Like I like to think so. But yeah, they definitely said that. And then, I got involved with the neighborhood association. The other part of town that we are considered where I live, we've heard of Dobieville now, but it's also called Spanish Town Creek. And that's the first neighborhood in Tampa ever. And so I joined. I was curious about things like, oh, well, why is it that our block has these crappy street signs, and then one block away we have these pretty Hyde Park signs? And so I started looking into that and seeing how I could fix that. And I forget who it was that I talked to down at the city, but long story short, I ended up getting involved with the neighborhood association, which was almost non-existent at that time. A couple new people, younger people, had moved into the neighborhood, and next thing you know, we've got a proper little association. Um, and the more we've gotten involved, you start dealing with HPPNA and HPPI, and these are the parts of Hyde Park that are really well established, still the very historical, very proud. And there was still, a, a good amount of people in those circles that had a raised eyebrow towards me, kind of like, what's this guy doing? And it took me a long time to kind of get through that barrier because I could feel it. If we were ever in meetings, I could sort of feel that thing. I would invite the different associations to my home for like meetings or whatever, just trying to let people see like, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of here. Like, you come in our house and it's designed on the inside to be very welcoming. And I'm proud to say that over the years, I've ended up making some really good friends in those other associations friendships that I'm really proud of, and took a lot to cultivate, but they're real now.
So real quick on Spanish Town Creek, because this is actually interesting, and I'm sure on one of our episodes with the History Center or somebody's mentioned this before, but I just pulled it up on Wikipedia here. So Spanish Town Creek was a stream that emptied into the Hillsborough Bay section of Tampa Bay, kind of where Hyde Park is. It says Spanish Town is believed to have been established in the mid to late 18th century. That's the
Yeah,
1700s.
like fishing village.
Uh,
So
Florida was transferred to Spain in 1821. Spanish-speaking fishermen built a village called Spanish Town near where the creek emptied into the bay during the era of Spanish control of La Florida before Fort Brooke. So you're talking way
long
back.
time ago. Our association. So right now, we've really been working hard to build. Like I said, the other two associations are really well defined. They've been around for a while. They've got a big membership core. Spanish Town Creek, we're humble and we're just trying to kind of fit in right now, make our way. But since the expansion happened of the local historic district, our neighborhood association worked really hard for that. And now it's kind of like we're hanging out with the big kids, and so we're trying to do things that help bring us up. And one of the things that we're working on right now is a mural. I do a lot of work in the art scene as well, and we're working on a mural that's a sort of like portal, like a Welcome to Spanish Town Creek mural that's going to be goes over one of the bridges leading off of Bayshore. Because the Spanish Town Creek, if you look up the boundary, the boundary is where we are. Actually, it's pretty big. We have a lot of homes in our region. I think it's
Look at the bridge.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like scroll up, David. Look at the size of that
Yeah.
bridge
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
creek.
I love that photo. It's
So
one of my favorites.
so look at how deep that was,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like and then, this is a whole different conversation, but just to say, we talk about flooding in South Tampa a lot
hmm
and some of these issues. Look at the kind of earthworks that have been done over the last,
Right.
I guess, 150 years. No wonder we got
That,
problems. It's like,
I can't even believe I've
pe-
never thought about that, but
you,
that's
you know
absolutely
what I
right.
mean? It's like, look what we're living on top of, and we wonder, well, why does water stand right here? Because you built the city over a damn river. Like, look
Someone
at that.
someone told me that the creek still somehow runs underneath.
Oh, I'm sure it
The,
does in culverts, right,
right.
under the
Right.
roadways. So click that photo, this sketch, David, because you can see
Yeah.
the creek.
Yep.
So the bridge was, so there's Bayshore Boulevard.
Yep.
People that are just listening, that we're just looking at a map here. What website is this? Spanish Town.
Tampania, Tampa. Blogspot.
TampaniaTampa.blogspot.com if you guys want to check this out. There's Magnolia
Yep.
Avenue. This is actually right close to our
Yeah, I was gonna say
studio.
we're right here.
So Bay, what would that be? Bay Avenue, south of De Leon. So that's where the school is, right? Magnolia. No, the school's a little west of this. But there's where the bridge was, and
And you
there's
can
where the
see where
big
they
creek was.
even like already had covered part of the creek right there. See how it goes up out of the left screen right there?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Over the
Yeah.
roadway.
And so Spanish Town Creek is it's a cool part of our history that gets overlooked a lot. And so we're working really hard as an association to try and lift that up. You know, we've got two things happening in our little association area, Dobieville
Right.
and Spanish Town Creek. And so we're working hard to bring those things up. And it's kind of going back to what you were saying about how do you fit in, you know, how do you bring modern into Hyde Park, or how do you do anything that fits in here, right? Because you have these little tiny lots in Dobieville, specifically on my block. There's little micro lots that are like the one that I used for this past summer's USF class was 29 feet wide by 132 feet deep. So it's this really unique lot. And then there's other lots. The one that we're working on right now is 33 by 65. So these are small, and some of them got even smaller, and they were really meant for just these really, you know, at the time, beautiful little shotgun homes. That, you know, if you buy one of those lots now that doesn't have a preserved home on it, the cost, the economics of it don't
Right.
really work out. You can't rebuild one of those. Two, you don't have the same honest materials to do them with, so it doesn't really make sense anyways. But when you start talking about preservation, like if you drive around the neighborhood, there are what I would say there's a lot of homes in the registry that are protected or contributing structures. But I would argue, you know, that's a whole other argument, but how many of them are actually, you know, how do we define what's worth being protected? Is it just the born on date? Because that's kind of how it's laid out right now. Or shouldn't we have to start like reassessing what that means? Like on my street, there are 3 Dobieville homes that are absolutely beautiful. They could still use a little bit of work, but for the most part, they are what they were. Maybe outside
Somewhat
of it,
preserved.
yeah, preserved, same materials. You can still see the wood siding and everything. And then you got a couple. And I'm sure this isn't just Dobieville. This is any historic district in Tampa, right? This is
well, that I should say too that like this whole conversation is sort of bigger than Dobieville, right? I mean, Dobieville is the context we're speaking in, and we're using it as examples, but really, any historic neighborhood in the city or
in the country,
for
yeah,
that matter,
I mean,
right? This conversation is applicable to.
Yeah.
And why it's important is people should know these stories. You know, we hear a lot on the show about people commenting like, well, what are we really turning into? Like, so many people are moving to our area. If we don't tell these stories, if we don't put this in front of everyone's face, if you don't do the mural, if you don't do the historic marker and the sign and the education, yeah, you lose it all,
Yeah.
and it gets paved over.
Yep.
And what you were just describing about those little Dobieville homes, like, you know, in the 1970s, they get stuccoed over and they get fucked with. And then before you know it, you're just left with this like sort of Frankenstein building
and
that speaks nothing to the history of the area.
And there are a few of those exact homes on my street that have now been sitting on the market for a year and a half, 2 years. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm not gonna say anything bad, but they're awful.
Sure,
and
because they've been screwed with.
Exactly. They are completely slathered over with 1970s, 80s stucco, bad, you know, Home Depot windows from the 80s. They are nothing that resembles what they once were, if they were beautiful back then. And so what are we saving right now? And
Right.
instead they just sit there and decay when you have people trying to do good things in the neighborhood. It's really frustrating. And so my argument is that, hey, if we have a little district within the district, right? Why don't we, what does it take to start a new conversation? And actually when the local historic district was expanding, I went and spoke at a couple of the council hearings, and somebody actually heard me and misinterpreted what I was saying, because I was against the expansion as it was being presented. I'm not against historic preservation. I am not against the ARC. As a matter of fact, I think both of them have really, really important roles in our community, right? But I do think that we need to reassess the guidelines every 5 years or so to make sure that they're staying up to with current standards. Like,
This episode is brought to you by the official remodeler of the TBD podcast, Kohler House Remodeling Company. Built on the belief that every homeowner deserves a premium experience, Kohler House is redefining high-end home remodeling with their commitment to integrity, craftsmanship, and quality communication. Their work speaks for itself, from condos in the towers of Channelside to 100-year-old homes in South Tampa, creating spaces that are both stunning and functional. What sets Kohler House Remodeling Company apart is their dedication to not only transforming homes into beautiful spaces, but to elevating the standard of residential general contracting. From concept to completion, every detail is handled with care, ensuring a process that's as smooth as the results are impressive. To learn more, check out our partner's website at kohlerhouse.net, KOHLERHAUS.net. This episode is sponsored by Chansey Architecture and Interior Design. Rooted in the heart of Ybor City for over 35 years, Walt Chansey and his team are trailblazers in their field. Beyond their work across the United States and the Bahamas, Chansey has shaped some of the most iconic residential and commercial spaces that serve as gateways to Cigar City, including Casa Marti and Casa Gomez. What sets Chansey Design apart is their ability to preserve the soul and character of historic buildings while seamlessly integrating modern design and functionality. They blend tradition with innovation, creating spaces that honor the past while meeting today's needs. Check out their work at www.chanseydesign.com. Well, there's the intention of policy. There's the goal of what we all hope to achieve, but then there's the sort of the practical way that these policies play out. And if you have a policy that says, oh, that home is old and from this specific era, you cannot alter it or change it or demolish it.
right.
Well, what if that home has been fucked with over the years?
Yeah.
What if that home has a crappy old roof that's caved in, termites eaten through the
Yeah.
whole thing? Not only that, condition-wise, what if it's been altered? What
Yeah.
if it has 1970s stucco that's
Yeah.
ruined the original wood, right? Now you have a property that's historically designated. No one's going to buy it because the economics don't make sense.
Yep.
And it'll just sit there for decades and decades. Back to the people in that
mind-numbing.
community that have lived there their whole life. It sounds like they're not here. I don't know.
Yeah.
You probably know more than me because you spoke to them. But it sounds like that they don't want those policies to continue, or they wouldn't want those policies to continue in that format because it's the same thing decade after decade.
yeah,
Nothing gets done. The
it's a-
house is just further decay.
And it's a fine line, right? Like, I get that people want to save certain things and they want to see certain styles. I get it.
The intention doesn't change.
Right, but the way that we get there has to be rethunk.
Practical.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and I think it's also important to say, like, in a small district like what's left of Dobieville, it's like one, maybe 2 blocks, right? And it's interesting. A couple years ago, they had one of the historic Hyde Park home tours going on, and it was when Dobieville was really in the news, and they invited some of Mr. Richard Dobie's like distant relatives, family members, to come and be a part of it. And I was sitting, my wife and I don't tell people who we are and those kind of things. We just like to sit and listen, be a fly on the wall. And we were listening to 2 of his, I think they were great granddaughters or great granddaughters, and they were listening to somebody speak, and I'm kind of like, we're right next to us so we can hear him talking, and they say, man, like, we don't really see what the fuss is right now. Some of these houses look pretty bad, and like, if you really wanted to uplift this name and uplift this neighborhood again, maybe we should have some more modern, something more nice that people can get behind. And they kind of pointed at a certain house that I won't tell which house it was, but it made us feel good. And it really, it kind of like, it was eye-opening to think like, well, that's true. So we have a small district like Dobieville right now that is struggling, and I'm gonna say it out loud. It is struggling over there because
It's caught in the middle.
because,
Like,
yeah, it's caught in the middle. So why wouldn't we consider what it would look like to make what I would say is a small design district, a design overlay district within the district that would take the fundamentals of the ARC, use those. We're not doing away with them. We're just going to expand upon them a little bit and make them more modern.
yeah, I
You
think
know,
the fear, right, to play devil's advocate, is that it just is Disney World. It just turns into
That's
this like abomination of character that has nothing to do with Dobieville or what it represented. And then in 50 years, by the time a bunch of people move here from all around the country and the world, the stories are lost, right?
That's the problem with trying to create new things that look like old things, right? That
Yes.
is Disney World. Like
Right.
you're recreating old designs with materials that don't have that honesty and authenticity, and that's a problem. Even if you look at the you can use the historic Hyde Park guidelines, or I mean, even when we were taking our architectural exams, like there's tests, like when you're designing something, an addition to a historic structure, you are not supposed to design the new part to look like the old part. You're supposed to design it to be part of its current period. We're creating new history, right?
Right.
And again, it goes back to because the materials almost always aren't going to be available, and they're not going to be the same. So it's never going to quite have that same authentic character.
And it can't, right? Because when all this was constructed, I mean, I'm reading right here. Where does it talk about the Cubans, David? I think if you scroll to the first part, right here. Spanish Town Creek, and I know this is not Dobieville, but it's right around the corner.
No,
it was said to be inhabited by Cuban fishermen around 1783.
Crazy.
What do you think they were building in 1783, dude? Like little wood shacks along the river, right?
So that's where
you can't build that today. It's against code, etc.
Right. And that's where I think, from a modern perspective, it becomes important to talk about the history.
100%.
Okay. So we have a lot. Matter of fact, Miss Rosa's family ended up selling us their lot, and the house had a fire. One of her kids was living in it, recovering from something, and they had a kitchen fire. And so they ended up selling us the house, and it was demolished. So, but what she told me, she actually said this to me. She goes, "I hope that one day when I'm gone, if my family ever decides to sell this house, I'm going to tell them that I hope they sell it to you, that so you can keep doing what you're doing here. I think what you're doing has, God, talk about meaningful. Like, it was wild." And I said, I don't know how to respond to that, other than to say that if that ever happens, you absolutely have my word that I will do everything I can to put something here that honors your history and your family's legacy. And so what we're doing, before the demo, we had her surviving kids came, and my buddy Greg, awesome photographer, came over and shot like a family photo of them on the porch with like an old medium format Hasselblad camera. So it's like the real film. There was like these 1950s sort of mid-century modern metal chairs and rockers that were outside, and they were all roached and rusty, but I pulled those aside, and we're going to scan them and recreate them with the ornate patterns and everything that are in them. We're going to recreate modern versions of those that are going to be bolted down to the new home's like front porch, so that they're always a part of it.
I love
We
that.
even had their dad had planted like this sort of like a money tree in this big pot out front, and it had gotten huge. I think they said he planted it, I think, in the 80s, but it's real big. And we even took the root ball from that before the demo and planted it in the ground, so it's just living underneath the ground over there. And in the new design, I've got a permanent basin in there where we're going to replant that and try and regrow that. Little things like that. Again, it's super subtle, but there is honesty and meaning behind it. And the last thing is that photo. Certainly, I'm going to, the family members are all getting one, but the city's going to get one for their archives. And then we're gonna make a bronze plaque for the back of the house that says this project is dedicated to Ms. Rosalie Brown and her family, and kind of tell a little history and slide that picture in the back, and so that it's there. Hopefully it's there for another 100 years.
She's passed now,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
God, I'd love to have her on the show and
Oh
ask
God,
her.
she was amazing.
Put aside the stories, right, of her growing up in that area, probably amazing. I mean, if she lived there 80 years or however long, but mostly what I want to ask her is about the future, as she passes on and lives the rest of your life out. What do you hope to see in this neighborhood? And it sounds like she wanted intention and dedication. It also sounds like she was maybe a realist. Like, she had probably sat there for decades and watched, like you said, the community was forgotten. There really wasn't a whole lot going on. And here you are coming into the community, not knowing anything about it, learning about it, sitting down with her. and then having this intention in your design and sort of your plan to continue to tell those stories. Because I think we all have to understand that it will never look the way it did, right?
Mhm.
I think it would be actually illegal to build it the way it did with those same materials. Most of that stuff is not even code, first of all.
Right.
Second of all, even if you wanted to build it in that way, financially and economically,
Yeah.
the numbers don't make sense.
Even looking at, let's use there's a house there. I forget what the address is, but it's one of the ones that we're talking about. It's protected. It's covered in stucco, bad windows. It's just a bad version of its former self, right? I've tried to analyze what it would look like. Okay, they'll let you do an addition on it. How
Mm,
do you do that? But again, the whole front of that house is not to code. You know what I mean? There's crawl
mhm.
space there. These things, pretty sure there's no hurricane straps, any of that kind of stuff. So what do you do to make it work? You know, I don't know. Again, you're stripping off the stucco and then putting back on hardy board in place of the wood siding. It just becomes, in my humble opinion, a Disney World version of its former self.
Mhm.
And hey, also that's not to shit on the if somebody's doing new homes. I've seen a couple of newer homes that were designed to look like old ones, and you know, good for them. And if they're done right, it works. Matter of fact, there's another one on our house. The guy did use he used wood siding and he used all these ornate wood pieces and decorations, and I think he won an award for it. And good for that, you know.
Mhm.
But that's not the norm for what people are doing, and I don't think we should have to be forced to
It's
do it.
such a tricky conversation and it's so applicable right now. Like I said earlier, there's so many people moving to our area.
Mm.
They're not gonna Most of them aren't gonna care, man.
Yeah.
They're not gonna care because
Oh,
they don't know. Like, they don't know these stories. They're just gonna move here, find a nice house. Oh, cute, like Hyde Park Village, blah, but they're not gonna know these stories if there's not a dedication and intention behind the people that are
s-
moving into these areas and that actually care about these
you're
areas.
so right. And for the most part, um, people just want something nice, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody really gives a shit about design or high design. They just want something nice. Typically they want to get the most room that they can for their buck. Totally get it. Um, but if there is a way to start promoting design education on modern architecture, modern residential architecture, and what that looks like, man, I'm here for it. I'm trying to do my part from this little angle that I'm coming from. I'm actually speaking at Bill Carlson's weekly breakfast event in a week or so, Cafe Con Tampa, and it's about exactly that. Like let's just try to educate people on what modern means in the world of residential architecture, and that you don't have to be afraid of it. And even hey, let's just say this: even if you learn about it and you're not afraid of it anymore, it doesn't mean you have to even like it. You may still like a traditional home, and that is totally okay. I mean,
Well,
architecture is like art; it's subjective, right? Certain things are not for everybody.
I'd be interested to understand what the other side would say about preserving things exactly the way they are, knowing you financially kind of can't for what reasons described. And also, like, with the policies in place, it's going to be very hard to do that anyway. Like, good luck trying to find a developer that would go in and build it the exact same way
Yeah,
and try to sell it to a family. That family's going to have other options in other places and get probably a larger house, like you said, and Hyde Park proper,
yeah.
you know. So it's like you almost have to look at this with a more creative lens now than you ever have because of the cost of everything, and that's kind of a shame. But what would be a real shame is to keep things the way they are, not have any creativity in how this area develops, and be left with a blighted area,
Yeah.
an area that there's no investment in. All the properties are sort of falling apart. And that to me seems more disrespectful to Miss Rosa.
To Miss Rosa, and there's undoubtedly so many more Miss Rosas around Tampa and around, like we said,
Oh my
Florida, around the
gosh,
country, right? There,
100%.
there's these areas, and some of the areas are really well upkept. My wife and I were just driving down, I think Columbus the other day, and we are like, man, look at how cool this area has been well kept. It's beautiful over there. It is history, right? Um, but in this little, part of town that we're at, other people say, well, if we could do little houses, then people could afford to live there, and it's like, affordable housing is a whole other conversation, right? Like
Sure.
it's a problem and we need to address it. But and it's but there are certain places where the dirt is the dirt. Like we can't
Right.
I can't
Well, and the
there's
construction
nothing I
costs,
can
the
do. Yeah,
debt, I mean,
construction
all of
costs.
it.
So certain places call for certain types of homes, certain sizes of homes. Um, and I just again, I guess for whether it's Dobieville or any other
Shit, look at Ybor City, right?
right, historically designated pockets, some of them do really well, and
Yeah.
they have a beautiful renaissance and a rebirth, and some of them for whatever reason struggle. And so my argument is like, well, what if we revisit these places that are struggling and just again take the fundamentals of the guidelines that are in place to protect them and just open them up a little bit, and let's welcome in some more modern design. Now there's got to be regulations on that, right? We don't want the bad developers coming in and doing bad modern.
Right.
We got to regulate that. I agree with that
Quality
100%.
material.
It's a couple year conversation on how we
Sure.
define
Oh,
what
for sure.
modern looks
Well,
like.
look, let's just say this too. This is the most sensitive conversation there could be
Yeah.
regarding the growth and development of our city or any city for that matter. We are an it town. People want to move here. Businesses are coming here. How do we honor these stories, the architecture, the past, Miss Rosa, right? These people, and it's not just Dobieville, right? I'm talking Ybor, right? The conversation around Ybor is super sensitive. It's like you have this massive investment being injected into the area. You have a historically significant area, not historically significant to one culture, to many cultures, to my culture, right? To the Cubans, to the Sicilians, to all these different people, right? But it's extremely cool, and because it's cool, there's so many people that want to live there and be there, and businesses are coming in. With that comes the G word, gentrification.
Ugh,
So it's
yeah.
like, how do you honor and continue the history and the story so it's never lost, but you don't hold the area back? Like the last thing I think anyone would want is just to keep it blighted and like
Right.
the shitty broken
Yeah.
roads and the shitty infrastructure, and
There's got to be a happy medium, right? There's got to be some give and
it
take.
is a tightrope. It is a super sensitive conversation. I think you've got to have people that have been there for decades, been there for generations, have a seat at the table to
Yep.
tell whatever authority, whether it's a historic preservation board, whether it's the city, those people have to have a say in the future.
First of all, I'm so excited about what's happening in Ybor, what seems to be happening in Ybor, man. Daryl Shaw, like everything he's doing, shout out Daryl Shaw. That guy, what he's doing, and the the genuine nature that he seems to have and the care for it seems obvious to me. I'm really excited to see where Gasworks is going. You had somebody on the show a couple weeks ago that was talking about something. You were talking about this subject, and he mentioned something that kind of like stuck to me. He said, however many tattoo shops we have down there, maybe it's not that many. Maybe it's only the best. And to me, it was like, oh, it's interesting because clearly I'm a tattoo guy and I know that culture, but he wasn't wrong. Like it's got to be the best. If you want to be down as these things grow, no, we can't get rid of them. We can't even get rid of half of them.
Sure.
It needs to be a part that culture needs to be a part of
It's a part of the
Seventh or whatever.
story.
Yeah. But in order to make room for other things, it's kind of a survival of the fittest and who's doing it right and who's doing it the right way.
Well, and to your point too, it's like those little houses in Dobieville, that's a part of the story too. You don't want to get rid of all those.
There's three of them,
But you want the best. You
right?
don't want the one that's fucked up Frankenstein, stucco, shitty
Yeah.
old windows, roofs falling in. You want the one that's been preserved, like those three
There's
we're talking
Three of
about.
them right on my street, and they're at the
Those are
corner.
the ones to
They're
emphasize.
beautiful. Matter of
Those are the
fact,
ones to highlight.
I would like to get my hands on them. I mean, because they're beautiful. They're old. They do need. There's people living in them.
Sure.
But man, if somebody ever sold those, what you could do to those to actually give them some new life, renovate them a little bit, man, they could be really cool. And there's three of them all right next to each other. That is beautiful history.
So look at the Jackson House, right?
Oh yeah.
There's been so much debate around what to do with that. I know they had issues with the surrounding ownership and they've worked out some sort of a deal. There's been a ton of private people that have invested and
Yep.
I think even the Vennick Foundation, Jeff and Penny put in $1 million towards it, right? Like there's a local dedication to it. Obviously everyone mostly.
Big ups to Gerald McCants. He's a buddy of mine I went to school with. He just got brought on as the
right.
architect
He's
to do
like the
that.
perfect
Yeah,
guy.
good dude.
But the problem is stagnation. And when there's not a plan in place, and when there's not a dedication to the history and the preservation of history, you get the Jackson House.
Yeah.
Look at the shameful disrepair
Yeah.
that's in, to a point
How does
where
that happen? Like,
because there's so many different conversations about preserving things exactly the way they are. And I
Yeah.
think when you try to do that with today's fire code and today's building code, it delays the process. And when you delay the process on a historic building, it falls into disrepair. And the storms and the rain and the heat of Florida have torn
And,
this property
and I
apart.
get it. You want to walk on the same wood floors that all the people that stayed there walked on, and that's beautiful, right? But at a certain point, and I look at that, and from an architecture and construction standpoint, man, like
How do
I'm
you
not a
move
specialist in
forward?
that, but how do you fix that?
Yes.
And does it become, and I'm not saying this one way or another, but does it become something where you build something beautiful there as a Jackson House museum? I don't know. I don't know
This
what the answer
photo
is to
we're
that.
looking at now, if people are watching, you'll see this photo of the Jackson House. It's totally tore apart.
Mhm.
This was 6 years ago. This was 6 years ago. They
Right.
just had the facade collapse on
Yep.
the east side of it. Okay. It's even worse than today.
Yeah.
And at some point, now again, back to what I said about the stakeholders, the people that have history, the family. I think there's actually, I believe that there's some generations that had owned the building that are still around, involved in the process. Those people need to have a seat at the table and decide what to do, right?
Yeah.
For sure, they have to have a seat at the table.
No doubt.
But you also have to have the realistic conversation. How do we move forward? Like, you can't just let this thing sit in disrepair. Do you rebuild it and recoup some of the materials, implement those materials in the new building? I don't believe you can rebuild it. I think you might have to build it completely from new and use materials.
I am not a specialist in that kind of rehabilitation,
I think we have
restoration, whatever you talk about, but the eye test would say, like, I don't know what you're going to salvage from that. Maybe
Well, we
you
have-
salvage materials to reuse as finished materials. Somehow you could replane some of that wood and maybe reuse it. But man, just looking at it, it's like, whoa.
And this has the story. Like, the Jackson House has the story to be honored and respected and shown to the people that are going to be moving here from around the world and around the country. And this could be a gem. I mean, is it moved? Do you move it to a different area where you'd have more space to create a museum around it? Like, this is an incredible part of Black
move that,
history,
it's
Tampa
falling
history,
down.
but also really American history.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that stayed here are like Ray Charles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's freaking awesome.
I
Do we have Gerald booked on the podcast? Do you know, David? I think we have a booking with him, and I can't wait to talk to him about
dude.
details about how they are going to accomplish this. I would imagine you can't rebuild it. I think you have to do it from scratch.
I wish I could speak on it, but
Yeah.
but man,
But
I'm glad that there seems to be, for the first time in a long time, some real direction, at least.
Well, pull up the article we just wrote, right? What's the latest news? I think there's some new news. Council voted for something. I feel like we've seen the same news over the last decade about the Jackson House. It's just, but the point of the conversation is, this is what happens when you have stagnation with historical property. You need to be quick and dynamic. Look what it looks like now. Look how shameful that is, man. Look at that picture, man. Look at the condition.
I want to know what year the one on the top was. Like, what year?
It's
was
probably 10 years
it?
ago,
Not
man.
that bad, yeah.
The strongest thing built in Tampa. So this lasted a hell of a long time. But so go back, David. That's when you have the conversation about preserving it, that top photo.
Yep.
That's when you have the conversation about putting money towards this. The city should have bought it and just done it and preserved it, created a museum.
Yeah. Couldn't have been that much back then.
Pull up a chair for the family, the stakeholders, the people in that community, and have them a part of the conversation and just get it done. Spend the dollars and just get it done. Because when you don't and you try to half-ass it, this is where you get. And I know and it's complicated too. I think there's been like roadblocks along the way, and there's issues with the neighbor, right? And it's complicated, etc. It's just disappointing, I think is the right word for it. You just look at it and it's disappointing. This is this morning?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, so what are they doing this morning, David?
We were just driving by and we saw them doing something. And
You took these photos?
Yeah. Esther took these photos. There's some 2x4s and stuff like that.
Strong.
And whatnot.
They're just limping it along, I think. They're just,
Reinforcing maybe?
yeah, I think they're just trying to ensure that the whole thing doesn't completely collapse. I think, earlier we're talking about this, like, at what point is a property too far gone? And to me, my personal opinion, I feel more disappointment and almost shame when I look at half-assing it. And like now it's, go back to the photo, David, the one we just took of the write-up we put up. Like, look at that photo on the bottom, man. That to me, like,
Shameful.
I feel more disappointment that it's been propped up in its decay. Now it's almost like an example of disrespect to the history
Right.
because it's been
How did it
propped up
take
like
us this
that.
long to?
And still, I mean,
Well, knock on wood, man.
what's the
Hopefully,
news?
with what's going on, it's got some positive.
So the Jackson House's
progress.
restoration is moving forward after years of uncertainty. The foundation announced that Gerald McCann's architecture has been selected to lead the project. So that's, I think, the latest news is that now there is a,
And
I guess, driving
he's
force.
someone that this will mean a lot to him.
Yes.
He actually just he published a book last year called The Segregation of Architecture. Like I said, he's a good dude. I went to school with him, and I'm actually working on a project with him right now.
So he's probably the right guy to handle something like this. And
Yep.
he's also the
Perfect.
he's also the lead on Tampa Union Station,
Yep.
which is right around the corner. So it's nice to know that someone who cares about the community, who understands the history, who's written a book about the segregation of architecture, is the lead behind this.
Yeah.
He sounds like the perfect guy. So shout out to
And
Gerald.
so that's a perfect situation for that, right? And there's so many more areas, again, Tampa, Florida, all over the country, that have these things happening and are open for conversation about how do we make something better. If that wasn't the Jackson House, if it didn't have all of its history, it had been scraped years ago,
Right.
And we could argue about rightfully so. If it didn't have that kind of history, then what is it? We're just preserving it. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. Is a born on date enough to save something? And I don't know that it is. I think that there needs to be a much deeper analysis of a building before we deem it as officially protected or contributing.
It's almost like there should be a identifying group of people that would evaluate the story of a site, of a building, and say, this story and this site is compelling enough to save.
Yeah.
How you do that specifically, who those people are, I'm not sure,
it's
but
like,
certainly just, it's old, so
it is. It's like two things, right? It's a committee, but then there's also like the committee is where you get the emotion that you attach to it, right? And then there's the checklist. Does it check these boxes? Is it still of its original materiality? Is it still standing up? Does it still have the same window? So on and so forth. And then how historical is it? Again, history, let's not talk about just because it was built this time. How historically significant is it?
And let's also say, how many buildings over the years have been torn down in our community that had these unbelievably compelling stories that you read about and you're like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. And yet it was torn down. I mean, if you look at old photos of Tampa, literally half of this city has been bulldozed over. And so I think there should be more of an emphasis on that word, historic. What does that mean specifically? And how do we take a more dedicated approach to preserving these buildings in a way that actually preserves them? Because if you just blanket over and say, "Now that's old, you can't do anything with it."
Yeah.
You get this. You get decay and nothing gets done for decades, and the building's condition gets worse and worse and worse until it falls over.
I'm really, on that subject, and you may know more about this than me, and I'm always curious when I roll through downtown Tampa. There's a couple old buildings that are still downtown that could be so beautiful, and still nothing has happened over there. I think one of the Crest buildings is still kind of, man, like
that whole block.
What is going on? Like, why has nothing happened there yet? I don't know. It's a whole other conversation, and I'm sure there's a million reasons. But man, you look at it and just think, what a missed opportunity right now. As Tampa is growing, I know the economy has slowed down or whatever. You would love to see that is one of the next big ones on the block.
Oh, 100%. I think you'd have to have someone with a ton of capital and the will to take it on. Because when you talk about an entire city block with an old building like that, you're talking about a serious amount of money, millions and millions and millions. But here's the conversation. The city spent a lot of money elsewhere on new projects, on, Franklin Street, right? The revitalization of Franklin Street got $6 million. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying sounds like there's some money to help preserve some of
Yeah,
these historic properties and give incentives to people that
no doubt.
have the goodwill to restore these things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think there's also with things going on downtown, sort of off subject, but it just something just piqued my memory here. Art, like we have all these cool things going on downtown, and art has become such a sort of polarizing thing. We've been covering up murals and street things and whatever, and there's a two sides to all that stuff, right? But I think that focusing, not losing sight of what art can do for our community, for architecture, for all these different things, is really important. We don't need to get into the politics of what they're covering up and why they are or
Sure.
why they aren't, because that's a whole can of worms. But I don't think that there's any argument that art needs to remain a focal point. I mean, if you look over in St. Pete, I was reading an article yesterday about the Shine Mural Festival. We AADMIXX. So AADMIXX, uh, fun little fact. AADMIXX is a pseudo acronym. It's AADMIXX, and that stands for Architecture, Art, and Design in the Mix. So I have always done everything I can to stand behind that second letter A and be an advocate for the arts. I've sponsored Shine in St. Pete. I'm a big, like, this is so nerdy, but unity in the community thing. Like I believe, I know we have a fun sibling rivalry with St. Pete, but I believe that as a Tampa Bay proper, we have a lot more strength together than we do apart. And so I think making sure that we support each other and the arts and keeping art alive in our communities. There, you can do beautiful murals in a historic community. Look what I was just talking about at the beginning of the conversation. We're working on a cool little mural that talks about Spanish Town Creek. Now we're using a really well known mural group here in Tampa, Pepper Alley, and we're trying to do something new, sort of modern, that talks about the history. And so we've got to make sure that we keep that going in the Bay. It's a big deal. I mean, like I said, St. Pete has always been known. We see it as like it's got this sort of beautiful, artistic, creative edge. And then I was actually I do these I do art curations. I do two shows at the Edition down in Water Street every year. Got one coming up in November, and when they asked me to curate this show, I was like, well, yeah, one, I love the arts and I'd love to bring something here, but someone asked me what my version of success was for it, and I looked at it and I was like, well, you think you want to bring an artist in, the artist wants to sell his work and all this stuff. Well, my real vision for success was that we can show, okay, Water Street is Water Street right now, right? We've created this sort of like this new affluent pocket in Tampa. People say what you will. It's like kind of this cool bougie little thing, and it's beautiful and it's polished. Um, but I don't think that that's enough to curate a proper art community, right?
Mm.
I said, well, what I think is a version of success, or my vision for success, is that we're gonna triangulate this pocket of Tampa with the beautiful grit of Ybor City and this beautiful creative edge of St. Pete. And we're going to triangulate that and bring all of our superpowers together. And that encapsulates everything. Seminole Heights, all these other areas coming together. And man, what we've been able to do in our first three shows is showcase Tampa Bay proper, as a whole community that can really come out and show out big time for the arts. And we can present ourselves. We can hang on one night with any big market art city. We can't do it every weekend or whatever, but if we can bring everybody together, we can hang out. We can hang with the big boys.
I think it's the difference between the future of our city and of our region being an Orlando or another Florida, sort of like, I don't know, stereotypical place, or something that's real and meaningful
The
and is
oh man,
creative. And I think when you remove the art from any place, it breeds standardization, and it's almost like you just 3D print these
right?
places all around the country. Like everyone knows, like when you travel around in America, a lot of these places look the same, man. It's like the
We've
Hobby Lobby and the
ugh,
fucking
we've used the word authenticity, I don't know how many times in this conversation already, but it is real, right? Like I've been, and I'm not gonna shit on any other cities right now, but I've been to a couple cities that I think they kind of like got on the revitalization train, or the you know, before
Mm.
before it was during when everything was big and corporate. It was during
Yeah.
like when Starbucks was exploding. And I've
And you
been to some
wanted a
cities,
Starbucks in your neighborhood.
right? And
Yeah.
everything in these cities, little downtown cores, is all your typical anodized aluminum storefront windows.
Right.
There's no real materiality. And then the next thing was, well, we got to be authentic. And you started seeing places bring crappy versions of their
Disney World
material.
authentic.
Yeah, and it kind of takes me back. I wanted to ask you about Ybor. Like, I think Ybor is it. These next 10 years, man, it's going to be, it is the cultural heartbeat of Tampa, but I think it's going to be a more widely embraced cultural heartbeat of Tampa, with more people coming in. Like right now, you know, I've seen a couple places open and close, and it was sort of a bummer that
Yeah.
that was like, well, maybe it's not quite there yet. It's not quite there for the people that are Hyde Park or Lakeland or Water Street
Sure.
to go spend a Friday or Saturday night, because it still gets, gets kind of crazy down there those nights. But it's almost there, and we have such a cool opportunity if we do it right. And like, let me ask you this: like with the barrio and everything, it's always big about, okay, red brick, red brick, red brick. Is there room for anything modern in
Mm-hmm.
that landscape, or does it all have to be red brick? Because I see some of the red brick that I see, I'm like, that's, I don't know if it was from 10 years ago or what, but it's kind of got that sort of veneer look to it
Right.
versus that beautiful, authentic old Augusta brick or whatever it is.
And attempting to be authentic and doing it in a cheap way like that, right, is worse
Yes.
than being creative and forward thinking and doing something that is just real.
Truly modern
In
and
my
expressive.
opinion.
Yeah, with new materials.
Here's the thing with Ybor City. It's a big book with a lot of chapters. And the chapters that I know very well are the chapters of my people that came to Ybor City and rolled cigars and had little businesses and shops. But there's also a large chapter that's been there the last 30 years, right? They've planted their flag. And I'm talking about, cigar lounges and tattoo shops and the bars and the nightlife and all that sort of stuff. That's important too. Who's to say
Hugely.
that? Who's to say, the chapter of the late 1800s and early 20th century is more important than the chapter of the last 4 or 5 decades? Like, I think we're all a part of this big story, and there really shouldn't be any version of it that's more correct than the other.
I agree.
We have to keep in mind that there is a natural demand in economics that drives forward the growth and development of particular areas. Ybor City has this incredible story going back over 100 years, and it's fucking awesome.
So good.
And people want to be a part of it. And business people want in, creative people want in, entertainment people want in.
They all should have a place.
They all should have a place. And so how do you move forward and be supportive of the area, right? I want the sidewalks fixed. I want the roads to be fixed, right? I want infrastructure to look good in the area. I want crime.
I want to feel safe.
I want the crime out of that community.
Yep.
All that being said, how do you do it and not stomp on the toes of people that have been working there for decades?
How do you get rid of the crime but still manage to preserve that beautiful grit I just talked about?
Yeah.
That's important, right? Like if that's where like the locals, the true Ybor locals start to get like upset. It's like, oh, you're basically just whitewashing everything away. And I don't know Daryl personally, but from what I've seen so far and the people that I know down there that have talked with him and seen him do it, sounds to me like he's really working to live up to his word, to try and find that balance.
It's not being whitewashed.
Yeah.
So that is not happening.
Yeah.
We've, anyone that follows the show knows how deep we've gotten into that development. Talking to the principals, talking to the people that are placing the businesses in there. Daryl's been on the show himself. Their intention is to preserve the stories.
I love everything about it. I want to get our next project. I want to do a project in
I want in
VM Ybor.
100%.
I
want
love it
in
over there. I want to be there so bad.
I'm trying to wrap up my deal over in the Heights, and then maybe look for something in Ybor and be a part of this growth and transition and lean into these stories. Not just the stories of my family 100 years ago. You know, my dad swept the floors in that old hardware store when
Crazy.
he was a teenager, like not even 100 years ago, 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the only story of Ybor. Like, so, it, and I think this whole conversation about historic preservation and Dobieville, right? I think it's expressed hugely in this overt way in Ybor City. Like you have you could say like cultural heart of our entire region,
Yeah.
Ybor City,
Yeah.
right? That's how the whole thing got going.
Yeah.
And here it is with hundreds of millions of dollars in investment, people moving into the area. David lives in the area with his wife. Like,
I went to 7th grade. Like I said, I grew up out in Brandon, but I went after 6th grade, we had a decision to make. Are you going to go to Mary Help Christian or are you going to go to Booker T. Washington? And there was this, it's kind of like a scary thing. It's like, oh, Booker T, if you remember, was in the middle of that project right there. And me and my buddies were like, we're going to Booker T. We're doing it. And I tell you what, it was one of the greatest years of my young life. And I don't know how many 30 plus years ago it was, but I saw that neighborhood. I was there every day. I mean, I saw things that you shouldn't see as a kid at that time. But right now, I have so much pride for what's going on Nebraska right there
oh
between La
yeah,
Septima Club, the Death and Co. Hat Company, Dojo. I mean, all these, it's wild. Like one thing
Flan
happens,
Factory.
all that, oh my God, so good. Like one thing happens right there, and all of a sudden, immediately, it starts
It's
spreading.
because
It's
the
so good.
American dream is still alive, and people that are ambitious enough to open up a little coffee shop, a
Yeah.
bakery, a freaking whatever,
Yep.
man. Like, I think that this city has an amazing opportunity to attract those types of people. I'm not saying attract the types of people that don't even live here that are moving from California, New York, around the world, whatever. I'm talking about you're born here in Tampa,
Yeah.
and you know that the city you live in recognizes the American dream is not dead, and you can plant your flag and open your business, and you can have a place here in the new chapter
Yeah.
of Tampa and Ybor City. And it's like, it's so especially sensitive, but we also have to recognize that Ybor's limped along for a long time. Like my grandfather, and we've talked on the show about the history of Ybor and what the government tried to do in the 1960s and 70s, and bringing HCC to that area and trying to get Ybor going. And then later in the late 90s, another investment in the early 2000s, putting the trolley in, right?
Yeah.
Putting Central Ybor and putting the city parking garages, and it's limped along, and it's had crime, and it's had these negative connotations. We'll put out these exciting videos about Ybor, and people comment, "I would never go there. It's dangerous." Blah 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 blah, and that's a shame, right?
Big time.
I think that is the worst part for me, right? The worst part for me is that it's unsafe for someone to go
I
enjoy.
was down there for the last shooting, man. We had artists in town from out of the country, and one of the things
That doesn't help anybody.
right, one of the things that I take personally when we have artists in Tampa for their first time, I take them to Columbia. I take them to see some of these little things in Tampa that make Tampa Tampa. And these artists particularly were big time graffiti. I was like, they'll love Ybor. Took them to the res, but we were ending the night. It was at the east end of Ybor. I think we're at Dirty Shame or something, and we're leaving. We get in a Uber, and all of a sudden, tons of cop cars are going by us. We're like, oh, geez, wonder what's happening. And we missed the shooting
Yep.
from just a few blocks away, and it's like, damn, man, that's like, it's still happening, and it's obviously it's not just Ybor, it's everywhere. But yeah, Ybor needs a little bit more love.
Time is a solver of many different things. I think
Yeah.
the last thing I want is that Disney World whitewashing.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's what Centro Ybor was. I mean, let's be real. When Centro
Yeah.
Ybor opened up,
That was the era,
it was Disney. Exactly. That's
right? They
exactly
put
the
in,
era.
think about what the tendency was, right? They put in
Oh.
like the Victoria's Secret, right? And it's like it's this outdoor mall,
Yep.
with this sort of, and same with Channel Side, right?
Yeah.
And that was like the early 2000s.
Era of the
this
outdoor thing with the outdoor
Yes.
bars on the second floor. Yes, it was. They had them in Fort Lauderdale, Miami.
recession occurs, all that goes under,
Mhm.
and now here we are with this like
Cleaning it up.
new iteration of taking those projects and rethinking them. Sparkman Wharf is a perfect example how they've redesigned that. I think one of the important things though, and what I've always tried to do with Ybor, is appreciate and recognize the good development and call out the bad development. And how I judge the good versus the bad is just simply will. Like, what is the will of the principal? You know, when I sit down with a developer, what are they indicating to me? Are they indicating, well, the return on the investment is good, and we think we can drive the rents up? And it's like, that's bullshit, man. Like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
what you're trying to do is just go into this community that you know, culture vulture, and you're trying to take advantage of a rise in appreciation for a particular area, and you're not recognizing the history. I will tell you though, most of the people that are operating in Ybor love the story, and the last thing they talk about is money. They want it to succeed. They know the history. They meet with the people. They meet with the families. Their emphasis is on the success and the continuation of the history and of the stories. And let's also be real, specifically gasworks, right?
Yep.
Specifically this nucleus, this first phase of gasworks, where the warehouse was and the new trolley stop and the park and all that was all just blighted industrial. So you can't say they're bulldozing history. You can't say that they're pushing people out. No one lived there, right? This is an industrial area. We've talked about it on the show before, but like the apartments where David lived, those were just, that whole apartment complex was completely disrespected, much like the Jackson house was not taken care of over decades, fell into disrepair. And when Daryl bought that property, he actually helped those people out and paid them. He was like, hey, look, like here's some money for a move. Here's money for a down payment on an apartment. You do what you got to do, right? The answer is not to do nothing. The answer is not to let those people that live in that community to live in those conditions. That's not good for them. That's not good for the community. That's not good for anybody.
Even outside of gasworks, I think from Nebraska all the way to call it just past 22nd, right? That's the 7th Street proper and everything. We just got done talking about the little area with Septima and the bread, the
Flan factory.
dojo, flan factory, all that. Going down 7th already, like I mean, how old is Hotel Haya now? 5 years? That place is wildly successful. I think it's an incredible project. I love that it was done by, one of Tampa's OG star architects and Alfonso. And then you go down, and then like, if you appreciate the art scene in Tampa, Crest Contemporary is is an art like community building that Daryl helped resurrect. And I've been to I don't know how many shows there already, and they're always busy, and they're keeping that vibe alive. And I don't think that that's going anywhere. And one of the things that I think is cool about that, I did have the good fortune of touring that with Daryl while he was finishing the build out, and he mentioned doing like a nice steakhouse type spot at the bottom. And it looks, we were just walking by there. Matter of fact, I was at we went to an opening at the Florida Photographic Museum of Arts, FAMOPA, that's down at the bottom of the crest now. And as we were leaving, the Raw Bar it looks like it's got to be about to open any day now.
Tommy's Chop House is the steak place, and the Raw Bar, maybe that is the Raw Bar. David,
Raw Bar's on the outside, where the Raw Bar's where the hookah bar used to be.
Yeah, type in Raw Bar Ybor. Maybe it'll pop up.
It looks really nice. It's still outdoor, and I think, like, does that outdoor vibe, is this the first place that draws that crowd? Because look at
Ocean Ink. That's probably Tattoo, although that could be it.
What's the big place that was? Oh, if you're looking at Central Ybor, what was the big space that was to the left?
Carne.
Yeah, but there was something that just opened up in there a couple years
Bar
ago,
10.
and it didn't succeed, right? And it was
10 rooms, bar 10.
Yeah. And we went in there, and then I don't believe it succeeded. I remember walking in and thinking like, ooh,
yeah, I tried it out too.
It might be a little bit ahead of its time right now, and not on the right side of time, right?
But dude, that's what I always remember growing up about Ybor. Like, whether it was like 8, 9, 10 years old, or through middle school, or even when I got to drinking age, like that's what Ybor to me was. As I got a little older, was like you go out to dinner, and then you get drinks, and then it's entertainment. Like that's why it was fucking cool, man. Is because of that mix of use. Obviously there's the time and the place for like let's have a crazy night out in Ybor, right? And you go to the Ritz, and you go to like a banger party, and it's fucking crazy and all that sort of stuff. But I even remember with my family, like my dad had his retirement party at the old steakhouse Carne, and it was
Yeah.
put on by the bar association locally. Like 3 judges were retiring. My dad was one of them, and they're dancing and they're having fun. We're having dinner, and then we went out to like Gas Bars
It
Grotto
was
and
an
did
event.
karaoke.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's fucking cool, man. We are a
Super
city,
cool.
and we need a destination for food and
Yeah.
drinks and
Yeah.
fun and
I got
carnage, man. And
I got excited when I saw the raw bar. I'm telling you, I'm like, oh wow, it actually looks really nice. And like there was something about it being open air on the corner that felt Ybor to
yeah,
me. Like, I don't know. Like it just feels like that
I
could be
want to.
the first place like that sticks.
And like we're sort of, I guess, guessing what this place could be. Ocean Ink coming soon. Here's the website.
Oh yeah,
Seems right here.
that is
David's got it
exactly
pulled
what it
up.
was called.
But what I'm thinking is like, dude, you're having some oysters, you're having cocktails, you're people watching, you're feeling the vibe.
That's it.
Chickens are crossing the
Oh
road.
my god.
And then here's the thing too. Here's why that's cool. Imagine you're from the Northeast. You hear about Cigar City, whatever. Or maybe you're even going on a cruise.
Yep.
You come down, you stay at Hotel Haya. Wow. Hotel Haya. Who is Mr. Haya? Plaque on the wall tells you that story.
Yep.
Go around the corner and you see what's the park? Marti Park,
Yep.
right? Owned by Cuba. You learn that history. Maybe you go tour J.C. Newman Cigar Factory.
Yep.
Then you go to Ocean. What is it? Ocean Ink Raw,
Yep.
right? You're having oysters. You're getting some seafood. You're people watching chickens, brick buildings. You're like, this is different.
Right.
This is not fucking Disney. This is not Orlando. This is not Miami. This is a unique place that has its own story that I cannot find anywhere
it is
else.
The cultural pulse of Tampa proper.
Yes.
And that kind of like
that right there, that story is why I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the people that come here on a cruise in Ohio. They stay at Hotel Hyatt. They experience Ybor. The people that are looking at moving here come and visit, right? They go back home with the story of what Tampa is and what Ybor is, rather than beaches and palm trees and Mickey Mouse.
But it's funny, and you're wearing the hat, and this is probably a huge, much too big of a conversation to get into right now. But what if we get to add the ballpark
Right.
into that equation?
Yes.
Oh my God! Like, I don't even know how we're not just fighting with everything we have to have that, because think about what that does. All of a sudden, if you can have it right there at the port, you got Ybor, you got the port, you got Water Street, and finally downtown Tampa. Because downtown Tampa right now it's still kind of sleepy, man. It
Yeah.
bums me out. Like you can go do cool things at the museum, but there's still the pulse right now is in Water Street. I mean, it is what it is. If you can get a ballpark that kind of bam becomes this catalyst, you got 82 days of commerce per year.
Yeah.
All of this thing, Tampa's urban fabric, bang, has changed. We are culturally viable. We are urban viable. I mean, it is all those things.
And it's more people that get to experience these stories and this history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to understand what development is coming to the urban core. Is the development this vanilla version of the past that's made to look like the past, or is it real? Are the materials real? Is it wrought iron? Is it real brick? Look at Castle Marti and Gomez, real brick.
Yeah. How can
That
we
building in 100
redefine-
years, people in 100 years will come and visit Ybor City and they'll have no idea that was built in 2023.
Right.
They'll think it's 150 years old.
Yeah.
You know, that intention to the quality of material is so freaking important, man. And that's what Gasworks is.
Redefining what modern is and what it'll be perceived at 100 years from now.
The
And
only
designing
issue is-
things that will stand another 100 years too.
The only issue is, you know, we're sitting here saying we want to be a part of it, right?
Mhm.
Meaning we would love to buy an old building and restore
Yeah,
it. We would
yeah.
love to buy a piece of land and build something cool. The problem is every seller in the area knows the trajectory of it,
yeah.
and it's so hard to make a deal. But, you know, all that stuff is
Hey, we're
market conditions,
I-
right?
I think the economy is what it is right now, but it feels like, you know, we were obviously on a crazy upward trajectory and it slowed down, but it doesn't feel like it's going to dive again. It just feels like we're in this sort of plateau until something happens and we spark and catch fire again in a good way.
My theory is that it's so damn hard to get going. You
Yeah.
know, I've talked a little bit on the show. I have an idea about a place I want to open, like a coffee cafe, gelato, whatever. Dude, the money, the capital, the red tape, the bureaucracy, the things you have to go through to open up any sort of establishment. I mean, people DM me and email me all the time about horror stories. Hey, I'm trying to open up a coffee shop in Tampa and they're making me do this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, I don't even know where to go. Or even big guys, like the biggest developers in the city are having problems. And I think whenever you have a huge barrier to entry, you're going to see that small business economic sector just flatten out. And that's what you have today. And that's why, like Casa Azul, we talked about before, like I'm drinking their coffee today. The only reason why this dude was able to get going is because he operates out of a food trailer. You know how much money it would take to go lease a space, a brick and mortar space, and do a build out?
Well,
You're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even make a cappuccino.
look at the example you were just talking about this on your show with Chipotle being down in Water Street now, right?
Yep.
Whatever was there, the Greens place or whatever it was didn't work out. It's unfortunate. I think it's a little bit unfair to Water Street to say that spot wasn't good because phase 2 was across the street. There's no foot traffic on there, so that's unfortunate. But I know the guys from Pasta Packs that they kind of did like their 4 or 5 month, whatever it was, 6-month pop up in that space. And I was just talking to them the other day, and they said they actually did really well in that short amount of time, considering that the foot traffic still isn't great. But now we've got the only people that can really afford it. They were getting like the city or Water Street was offering a good deal to do something cool there with the community. But now look who the only people are that can afford to be there. It's freaking Chipotle.
And people have to keep in mind that this is all numbers. This whole deal, Water Street is numbers.
And
when these guys,
it started with Jeff Vinnick. I mean, like it was such a beautiful narrative about we're gonna be a wellness district and we're gonna have all local businesses, and it started that way, and it's in a lot of ways it still very much is that way. It's a lot of local businesses down there, but now as it's evolving, you're starting to see that the local businesses can't. Smaller local
it's
businesses
the bank,
can't
man.
really afford it.
Yeah, it's the bank, because it's all well and good if someone like Vinnick or Shaw wants to come into our community and spend their own millions and millions and millions of dollars. They can do what they want, but when you incorporate a bank, the bank goes, who's Pasta Packs? How long have they been in business? Versus Chipotle, national tenant. They got enough money to, they don't have to sell a Chipotle bowl and they can pay that lease out for 10 years, right? So it's like, I think when you start to get into the late stage of a development and you've got banks, you've got refinances, you've got now investors in the mix, right? You've got these institutions buying the debt, right? They're checking up on the numbers. And in order for the development to be successful, they probably had no choice but to bring in a tenant like Chipotle. It's like there's the intention of what they would want to do, but then there's the reality of, well, in order for this project to drive forward and for us to do phase 2, we got to have Chipotle.
You can't hate on them for doing that, right? The biggest bummer about it to me is like phase 2 is going to happen, hopefully, right? I mean, it looks like it is. They got the infrastructure now. So when it happens, it's like, damn it. I wish that, because Chipotle is not going anywhere. That's for damn sure, right? But there could have been a Pasta Packs or somebody local on that spot that could, if they could,
Well, think about 100 years ago, right? So that King Greco hardware store was opened on 8th Avenue in 1926, right? So 99 years ago.
Main Street was where I drove down. Sorry, Main Street was where my wife and I drove down last
West Tampa?
Yeah, and God, it was beautiful. It was
West Tampa is another conversation
so
that's bubbling right now with this exact same context. How do you grow and develop that area that is super cool, that has its own story, and not forget all those chapters in between?
Sorry, King Greco. I didn't mean it, but it just...
No, it's all good. It's super relevant. I think this conversation is applicable to many, many areas. But so King Greco, right? Like when that building was built, they didn't have the fire well, you got to put a sprinkler in here and you have to be 6 inches from this, and your roof eave and your stormwater, and in these layers that we've built on our development and this is state level stuff too, right? Like building code, fire code. Some of this stuff is international code, right? That we follow, and it's all for a good reason. The problem is the well-intention behind all that stuff has built this complete mess of bureaucracy that small businesses have to operate in. And when you take that ambitious person, whether they're from Tampa or from any place else, and they come here to do business, they want to open up a little coffee shop or a little cafe or whatever the hell that may be, the money and the steps they have to walk through is not conducive to growth. It's not, it doesn't say yes to them.
Just to get open, like to get
Just
through the
to
process,
get
and you're
open,
not
let
making
alone
income.
operate a good
It's like you have
business.
to have a year's worth of income just to be able to plan to get something open.
That's the problem. And that's why you see a lot of empty lots in downtown Tampa. And that's why you see I shouldn't say only, most of the successful businesses. Look at Naked Farmer. The reason they were so successful is because they got to operate in that shipping container and they did good business and they were able to get in at a lower barrier to entry. Casa Azul, same story. There's so many different examples of that micro retail. When you give small businesses an opportunity to grow, and the public can go to those small businesses and support them and buy their products and enjoy it, and they can get enough money, then they can grow, man. So it's like that first step is so important. And I think the city's hands are tied, right? You've got like Florida building code and you've got these higher-arching things that dictate what we can do as a local government. But the emphasis has to be on unwinding that red tape for small businesses, or else we're only going to be left with Chipotle. We're only going to be left with these corporate tenants that can afford the bureaucracy.
100% completely agree.
And so the answer to that, I don't know, right? I mean, again, I think you're dealing with like state level stuff that we don't have control over. I'm not sure. But whenever there's an opportunity for the local government to support small, we have to take advantage of it. And maybe it's grant money. Like I know the CRA dollars can be used for small businesses. So maybe instead of, I mean, not to single out any project, but like just as a blanket statement, maybe instead of spending, let's say, $5 million on a development project, how many $50,000 grants is that, right, to small businesses? That's 100, am I right? That's the math.
Yeah, it's excellent.
$150,000 grants to small businesses so that they can
Oh my
better
God.
get through the bureaucracy.
You're onto something.
You know?
You need to push that. That's
Yeah.
a big one.
Something like that, to where you can get ambitious people in this city that are from here, that are growing up here, that want to be a part of the growth, but they can't, dude. They don't have the credit to compete with Chipotle.
Yeah.
They don't have the capital to go lease a space and to build out a space. But maybe they would if some, like a Nimble, like we had Nimble Retail on the show.
Yeah, that's a great concept.
What a great concept to sort of start out small businesses and give a smaller barrier to entry.
Actually, I was really, really impressed by that.
Yeah, super cool concept. And maybe, you release some red tape in certain areas and allow those small businesses to get going.
They focused on like, was it parking lots and stuff like that where they set up shop? I mean,
think about it, like underutilized parking lots throughout the city, right? It takes a fortune, like we're talking about, to build like a real building there. Well, what if you could just do a land lease with a pre-manufactured building, small little, it's not a shipping container, but think of it in that way. Way less expensive, way easier to get in terms of like there's way less time to build out something like that. Because it's such small square footage, I don't have to pay $15,000 a month to a landlord. Maybe I pay half that. And so the small businesses have a chance. Yeah, Nimble Retail. I mean, the concept, they really are onto something when it comes to enabling small businesses to start to freaking sell that cup of coffee instead of just staying in idea world.
And I think another a small business success story. I mean, I'm such a homer for Tampa. Shoot, man, I talk about my wife all the time, but her and I considered leaving like 12 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was now. Thinking like she's from New York, I was from Detroit. Like, let's go to one of these big cities where there's more creativity happening. And then, as chance would have it, her parents are here. We're like, maybe we stick around and try to become a solution to the problem and sort of get behind, find the creative community here, help bring it up. And so I'm so glad that we did. I'm really proud to be from Tampa right now. And I'm a total homer for all of the small businesses. I could run down a list right now of how many people are doing it right. And I root for every day, and we try to get out and support at any opportunity that we have, man. There's so many people doing cool things. And so Nimble, all these guys that are in Tampa doing rad stuff it's impressive. Like sometimes it feels like we focus on, oh, this could be better, or this is a bummer or whatever, but step back for a second and say, if we had a show and just talked about all the people that are doing good things and it could be a fun show actually to talk about all of them, because there are a lot. There are a lot.
There's an amazing amount
Yeah.
of not only newer people that have done these cool small businesses that are successful locally, but think about some of the families that have been involved in business for over
Oh,
100 years. Like the Columbia restaurant, the way it's like the ultimate example of
yeah.
how they've sustained this restaurant since I think technically 1904. And Andre
Oh, the
Gonsmart was making a
1905
joke like, should
salad.
we change the salad name to 1904 or whatever the
Yeah.
date is? But they've been doing what they've been doing for like over 120 years, man.
I
That
still
is
go
so
to that bar
special.
for a salad and a half a Cuban when somebody's in town. Like that's where we go in Ybor. I mean,
I
every time.
don't own a small business in the sense that it's not like a product business or a
Right,
coffee
right,
shop, right?
right.
But everyone I talk to who owns a business like that, holy shit, that is a tough place to be in. Very, very challenging.
And that's why when you see somebody who is succeeding, you're just like, yes, like you're
Yes.
rooting for them. Like who came to who's it that came into Ybor like 2 years ago from St. Pete's Bagels.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. Like we used to go all the way to St. Pete. Now, granted, we live right by the Selman Expressway, so we can be in St. Pete in 20 minutes. But we used to go out there just to go to that because it was such a cool concept and they seemed like cool people and the food was good. And then to see them be able to hop the bridge
Well, how
and
dope is
make
that,
it,
right?
oh,
Like,
dude, like,
I love the story of the cross pollination, right? Like a
yeah,
business in St. Pete that crushes it, and
yeah,
then they come to this market, and
yeah,
the people here love it too, vice
yes.
versa. Like, I think as a region, back to what you were saying, how we're more powerful and stronger together as a region is
Yep.
so true.
Yeah.
Because St. Pete brings this like culturally different, slower paced,
Yeah.
but more creative, artistic vibe.
It's a boho, yeah. It's the boho
And then
vibe, the
Tampa's
artist,
like metropolitan city business lawyer
totally.
type thing.
And so when you bring all that together, and I again, like it's a triangle, really. I mean, I know Tampa and Ybor are kind of the same, but someplace like Water Street, I think, is so much different than Ybor right now. And I think that when you draw that triangle and you encapsulate, like I said, Seminole Heights and everything, man, there's a lot of power in this region. I'm actually working on another potentially big project. Can't really talk about what it is yet, but it's got the potential to be a huge art project for us. And I was talking to the guy who runs it. He's out of LA, and he said, "Well, is Tampa a big enough market to sustain this thing for 3 or 4 months or whatever?" I said, "Well, it's not just Tampa." I go, "You got to remember, if this is something that's that big, it's Tampa Bay with St. Pete. We also have access to Orlando, Lakeland, Plant City." And I said, if you do something this big, people are actually going to come here from Miami. But the more immediate area, Orlando's only an hour away, man. We're doing big things. People come from Orlando, I think, every day to go to Armature Works, right? I
Right,
mean, like that's
100%.
a tourist destination.
Well, and again, like traditionally, I think just the cruise example is a good one because, from what I could tell, 10 years ago, even longer than that, people would come and sort of stay in a hotel, maybe near the airport, take a shuttle to the terminal, right, on the cruise, get on, go on the cruise, and then leave. I love the idea of those people, those tourists, understanding more about Ybor, Seminole Heights, dipping into those areas,
Hmm.
trying out the food, going to the small businesses. Like that's healthy for everybody, man. And most of all, it builds a really cool experience for that family or those individuals visiting here. They go home, they tell their friends, right? It's all the snowball effect that helps everybody.
I've met a lot of people in the last like year or two. Like we hear about all the people moving to Tampa, young people, jobs, whatever. For a while, I'm kind of like, I was like, well, where are they? Where are they living? What are they doing? What are their jobs? But more and more, I'm meeting them out and about now. It's like, oh, I'm from Denver, or I came here
Yeah.
from Nashville, I came here from California, New York, whatever. They are here. If you get out and about, like they're here and they're still coming, and people are saying good things about us. And you know, locals are going to be locals, right? There's people that get like territorial. This is the new people, whatever. But and sometimes it's the old schoolers that are going to be a little negative, like about growth or whatever. But there is a lot of really good stuff going on right now, and a lot of good people coming to town, and a lot of good OG Tampa people holding it down.
Look, I think on the private sector side, we have a lot to be thankful for, meaning the momentum of our region, the eyes on us, mean, we had Tom Brady, right? We win these,
What an
we
era.
win the Super Bowl, we win the back-to-back hockey championships. We get Water Street built, Gasworks is going up, cranes are in the air, Waldorf Astoria, downtown St. Pete
Right.
goes under contract for $27 million.
Crazy.
There's all these things that people in our region read as headlines and go, what the fuck is
Right.
happening to our community?
Yeah.
But I think we all have to understand we live in this incredible place. Like, we live in an amazing place. We're all blessed to live here. Well, why wouldn't people that visit here see the same thing we see? Of course they see it.
Keep pushing. You know what I mean? Like, don't, if something's not going your way or whatever, don't get too discouraged. Man, I was in, like I said, I'm originally a Michigan kid, born outside Detroit. Still love going up there. I was in Detroit, coming out of the bankruptcy era a few years back, and I got in an Uber, and there was like, started noticing there was signs everywhere. The Uber driver couldn't have been nicer, and it said, "Say something nice about Detroit." And that's where that was sort of like this campaign that was going on, and I thought, that's so cool. And I took that with me as like, when people are in town, show them what Tampa's about.
Yes.
Take them someplace cool. Take them someplace authentic. Take them someplace new that you're proud of, that we just built. I mean, all that. I think, say something nice about Tampa Bay and try to be a part of its growth.
And support these areas that are growing, right? Like, if you think Ybor's dangerous, fuck that. Like, go get lunch there. Like,
go out there during the day. Maybe you don't have to go out and be part of the club scene this Friday night, but
That's
go
what
out
I'm
to
saying.
Ybor City during the day is lovely.
What I try to, like, when anyone is like, oh, let's get a coffee, you pick. Like, take me to your spot. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about what my usual place is. That's where
Love. How do you say it?
Kikiriki.
Kikiriki. Yes.
David, didn't you learn how to say it in Ukrainian or some shit? Like, didn't you bring your dad there?
I mean, yeah, I brought them there, but that doesn't translate.
They don't have rooster. They don't
Great
have
spot,
chickens in
though.
Ukraine, man. Come
No,
on.
they do, but that's like, I don't know, kikiriki, that's just a saying. It's like
Cockadoodle. I think
Yeah.
Kikiriki is cockle-doodle-doo in Spanish.
Yeah,
right?
right,
Like,
right.
that's-
exactly.
I love it. That's a great spot. Yes.
But David's a perfect example, right? Like, so David's parents are like from Ukrainian immigrants to this country in like the 90s or whatever. Their whole connotation about Ybor was negative, right?
Yeah.
We've told the story before. David's laughing. But like, he brought them to Ybor. They came in with this negative connotation, dirty, crime, whatever. They leave like, holy shit, next time we come here, like, we got to visit this again. People that live here might not realize how unique it is, truthfully. I think when you sort of travel around the country, around the world, you gain more perspective, and when you have your head down and you live in your city, it becomes normal.
Sure.
But God, we got to recognize when people visit Ybor City, I've witnessed it, man. When I get a coffee in Ybor and I'm walking around, I just hang out and people watch, because I love seeing the dynamic nature of change and how things are changing. And when I see a family get out of a big SUV and the mom is like, look at this, honey. Like, this is where cigars come from. Like, this was Cigar City. And she's like trying to explain this history and so excited. Dude, that is what gives me
And I think that's a great point. Like, we talk about Ybor being dangerous. Well, might still be dangerous, but it's at certain times late at night when it's like, what did your mom used to say? It's nothing good happens after midnight, right?
No
Like,
shit,
like
man.
there's a certain, we still got to fix that, but there is a whole night from 5 p.m. until 10, 11 p.m. that you're good down there. You can take your family, go grab a bite. And I think that things like what we say, Ocean City Inc. or whatever, that kind of stuff starting to happen. I think that's where we hopefully start to bridge that gap, and we start to see the good bleed over into the bad and not vice versa.
And I think to your point earlier, like, we're talking about a mix of everything. Like, yeah, you can have it all, man. You can still have the tattoos. You can still have the club, but you can also have people living there. And those people that live there need services. What do they need? They need a coffee shop. They need a Pilates place. They need an acai bowl, whatever.
When we were leaving the photographic museum the other night, we walked past the Raw Bar, and then we took a right, and we were walking to our car, and we walked past the new like efficiency, like economy apartments or whatever, the tiny apartments right there on the train tracks. I think they were built in the same building that Alfonso Architects used to be at. And we looked in the window, and we're like, whoa, like, those are really nice. That looks like a really cool project.
What's that called? Mile?
I think it is Mode.
I always
I think you're right about that.
butcher. These freaking
But I
developments.
saw in there, I'm like, oh, wow, they
I know
did a
exactly
really
where it
nice
is on the
job with
map.
that.
You know what I'm talking about. It's a east to west building right on the
Yeah,
train track.
yeah.
I'm gonna find out
I
what
want
it
to
is.
say it's
Miles.
yes.
Miles at Ybor. Yeah, beautiful, right? Like, and to your point about it doesn't all need to be red brick in order to preserve sort of the story about what this place was. They've done a really interesting job of making it industrial feeling, but it's older.
That's when it was still being built. The one I'm talking about is I think was across the train tracks
No,
there.
you're in the wrong spot, David. Go to the corner of it's the block south of 7th between 16th and 17th Street. Yeah, right here, that construction site.
Yep.
No, you missed it. Right there to the east. See the construction
Yep.
site?
That thing.
Yeah, like I don't know if you put the little man down, you can kind of see the architecture there.
It's done now.
It's done
Yeah,
now.
completely. We
But
were walking by. We literally walked past that storefront and we looked inside.
Go
We're just
on the
like,
other
"Holy
side of the
crap,
train
that's
track,
beautiful."
David, so you can see it. But notice, look at the materials, man. Like the I don't know if that's an iron, but that color, like that right there
Yeah.
is not red brick
Right.
cigar factory look.
But it fits.
But it fits because of the scale.
Yes.
It fits because of the shape of the windows. It fits, and also keep in mind the context.
It looks
right
like
on
that.
a train track.
Yeah.
Like
Is that
you're not gonna.
Is that Corten steel in those?
Looks like it.
And it's the same color as brick, and so
Look at the metal work over the lobby,
Yeah.
right? To me, that speaks to like the industrial age of Ybor with all the warehouses. Like you're bringing in those metallic elements to the project.
killer project, and delivered something that we needed, which was affordable housing
Exactly.
for the artist community. Everybody that's down there, that's what that is.
Again, to your point, you don't have to rebuild a freaking cigar factory. You can
Yeah.
push the envelope with design, respect the quality, respect the materials, speak to the history, but create something totally brand new.
Yeah.
And it works.
Love that Alfonso did that.
Can we talk about Entrees?
Yeah. Oh, she.
We went on a little tangent there
Yeah,
about a
right.
whole bunch of shit.
All
but
good.
David, I emailed you the website. It's on AADMIXX. If you just go to his website, top right, Entrees. So explain what Entrees is.
So going back to what I was saying in the beginning about bad modern residential design, developer modern, if you will. It's always been evident to me that like people, when the layperson goes out and says, "Hey, you know what? It's time for me. We want to build a new home." First thing that they do is they go find a builder. They don't go find an architect. Almost nobody, unless you're some affluent doctor, lawyer, whatever, with big money, thinks about, I have this architect in mind that I want to do. No, they say, I'm going to find a builder and I want it to look something like this. The builder, like I said earlier, typically just has a draftsman on staff, throws a buzzword at them. They may look in a magazine, pick something out, whatever. That's it. And there's a reason for that, right? Like architects cost money. Everybody understands that you're paying a builder, usually cost plus something like 20%. And somewhere enrolled into that fee is the cost for that draftsman, because they usually probably to get that house, those set of plans, they're probably paying that draftsman a couple grand. Architects, if you Google how do architects make money, how much should I pay an architect to design my home? There's actually a really good article in Forbes last year, and it talks about like the different layers of what you should pay an architect for what. And it's anywhere between 5 and 15% of the construction cost. Same way as a builder gets 20%, architects are between 5 and 15, depending on how much work they do. So if you're a person that has a budget to build your new home and it's under $1 million, which most everybody is, right? You can't afford to, let's say you want the architect to do everything. You want cool cabinets and all this stuff. You're looking at a 10 to 12% cost. If you've got $1 million budget, let's just call it $1 million. Let's say you're lucky enough to have $1 million budget. That's $100,000. That's right out of your budget towards the architect, not including the 20% that's going to the builder, right? So why wouldn't most people just want to just say, I'm just going to pay the builder to give me something that they have. They'll let me move a wall here or
Right.
there, and we'll call it custom. Maybe we'll put some sort of veneer on the front of it, whatever. And that's why we have so much bad versions of modern design all over town. And I just started thinking about it. I'm like, well, what if I sort of, this isn't a new idea, right? Like look at big box builders, they're doing, I don't want to use any names, whatever, but the big developers out there, they make a couple designs and you pick one of them and you go, well, I'm like, well, if I could do that just on a small scale, I'm going to make three of them. I made a 1, 2, and a 3-bedroom single family home. I'm going to do a cool design. I'm going to spec them all the way down to the tile, the HVAC systems. We're going to spec every little last bit of these homes. And we're going to take out as much as 90% of what that architectural fee would be and sell you a set of plans. Our goal is to try and sell in volume, right? But at least we're trying to sell things that have that do modern, what we think is our version of modern urban progressive. We do it right. It's got integrity, it's got good materials, and we actually even give 2 different versions of the interiors. We do like a classic AADMIXX is what we call it, and it's natural wood and some black cabinets. It's got a little bit more of a masculine vibe, and then we do a more modern, with like white cabinets and whatever. But the point is, we can get these plans in people's hands for call it next to nothing. I mean, like the 1-bedroom, I think we have when they start at like it says $250 is to get a planning set, which is like, no, it's not a construction set of documents. It's a PDF where you can like mark up your walls or whatever. And then if you decide to go and get a real set of plans, that money goes towards your set of plans. So the 1-bedroom, I think, was, if I remember, $2,000, $3,000, and then $5,000 for the 3-bedroom. And so, yeah, the idea is that, hey, we can get you real meaningful architecture. If you're into the modern style, we can get something in your hands that you can take to any builder in Florida, or any builder in the country for that matter. Obviously, if you're going for an extra amount of money, we'll stamp it for you. If you're going to be, depending on where you are, if you're on the coast, we're going to require that you hire a local engineer to do soil testing and all that kind of thing. So, but the idea is that you can get your baseline set of modern drawings with all the finishes, all the mechanical systems, everything in there for 90% of what you would normally pay an architect basic. And then you hire a builder to build it for you. And for us, if you live within 10 miles ish, we'd love to build it for you,
Sure.
obviously. And that's where we can actually make a little bit of money on that. But the real idea behind it was to get better modern design into the general public, whether that's in Tampa or anywhere else in Florida. And again, if somebody really liked one of these and wanted to do it in any other state, that's cool too. And again, we're not pretending that this is a new idea. We're just trying to do our version of it and do our part to get better stuff, get better stuff out there. Because no one in Tampa is doing this.
And mostly that was reserved for people that were going to, to sit down with some of these architects that are going to build you this like crazy modern intricate design. You're going to spend 6 figures all day.
Well, that's the other thing, because I didn't touch on that. So our goal is that these can be built, like hard costs for construction costs. You can build these for anywhere between $175 and $275 a square foot. Now that's hard cost. You're not paying your GC fee in there or whatever. But if you look around at what it costs to build things right now, it's build really something cool and build something with style. That's a good price point. And if you go do it in a more rural area, you might find builders who can do it for a lot cheaper.
So if people want to check this out, where can they find it?
If you go to our website, AADMIXX.com, which is AADMIXX.com, the Entrees it's at the top of the website, right on the bar right there. Yep.
It's super interesting. And I see on here you have basically 4 iterations.
Yep. Right now. So we had our first developer hit us up, and he bought some lots over on South Bay Shore, south of Inner Bay. And in order to make the project work, he needed a 4-bedroom. So we went ahead and designed our 4-bedroom too. So we got a 4-bedroom on there. 4-bedroom is pretty big. It's almost 5,000 square feet.
Is that an inked deal?
Yeah. We're land is secured. We're actually doing 3 of them. And then he's got another lot up the street where we're doing a really cool like car barn for him.
3 of them in like random different areas, or
nope,
one particular?
1, 2, 3. Yep.
Oh, amazing.
And it's interesting. Let's just say there's other recent modern builds right in that area, and then right across the street there are some beautiful homes being built. Big. I'm talking, I think $9 million, $11 million homes that are being built there.
Well, that should be on the Bay side, right?
Yeah. But when as a lot of developers will do is say, hey, developers will say, hey, let's just put a different facade on them and make them look. And we explored that for a minute. I was not into the idea from the get, and as we messed around with it for a day or two, I realized I go, this feels forced. I go,
Mm.
the design is cool. And so what we chose to do was do more of like a ombre color. We're doing a black one, a gray and white one, and a white one. And so they're very much gonna it's gonna be obvious that they're related,
Sure.
but they're all, rather than doing different materials and everything, we're doing different colors and kind of from dark to light.
I love that idea because like you sort of see that, like you mentioned with the big developers where you've got 3 different boxes. Well, I shouldn't say 3 different boxes, 3 of the same boxes
Yep.
with a different facade,
Veneers. It's veneer material. They're not honest materials. We're sticking with
And
our.
so these are going to have the real, like the iron
Yeah,
and the
yeah. We're gonna have
metals.
our core 10 front doors, and then we're in Florida. Stucco does work, and then we're doing metal roofs, but again, all different colors. And one of the things like stucco is interesting, right? People, if you think of like 1980s stucco, it's that real rough kind of look, and that was sort of a weird era. Older stucco is kind of cool. We like to do the smooth finish stucco.
Where it's like the sand
Yeah,
almost.
not even. No, this is like that's its own thing too. That's like a sandpaper feeling. No, ours are like you can run your hand on them. They're
Smooth.
kind of like slippery when they're wet. Control joints are a thing, right? You have to make sure that the stucco doesn't crack. And so with our design style, we use a lot of subtle angles, and I spend a lot of time using the control joints as part of the design feature. And we create patterns in the stucco, and it plays to our style, plays to our aesthetic. And actually, on our house, that's how Basque defined the mural. He's like, "Well, how do you want to just do this mural?" I said, "Don't ask me, dude. You're the artist. I would never step into your lane." He's like, "No, this is a collaboration." We fought on it for a little bit, and he goes, "I got it." He's like, "Look at the control joint patterns. I'm gonna take each one of those shapes and do a different pattern
Mm.
inside of it," and it ended up becoming this beautiful like muted quilt,
I'm
like a
sure
stucco
that's on the
quilt.
website, David. See if you can find that.
Yeah, it's on our like the first page of AADMIXX. You can pull it up and see it.
I think
That one right in the
this
middle.
whole conversation has got me thinking about just the word intention, right? Like
Yeah,
whenever there's a creative person that puts intention behind something,
400 sola.
you almost always, it's like the outcome is always a higher quality and a better product and something that can be looked at that has a story versus like these kind of cookie cutter things that I don't think
Backstory matters
anyone
big
likes.
time.
I think people like those because they're affordable and approachable.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is marry those two
Yeah.
worlds.
Yes. Backstory matters big time, man. That's what
Oh, that's
creates
so
authenticity.
sick,
Yeah.
dude.
That's all hand painted, and every single shape is its own set of layered patterns, man. He was out there for almost 3 weeks.
I think that you talked about this when you were first on the show a few years ago. And like, I remember, wasn't this the short form we put up where people were like, it'd be nice to see what the fuck you're talking about. But isn't it this right here? It's the picture of the house. Right, David?
I think so.
Yeah.
If you scroll up a little bit, you can kind of see, even in the front, you see the control joints, how they're kind of going sideways. See over here? We use the control joints to create these patterns. You can even see like an upside down AADMIXX.
Zoom out, David. Let me just see the whole house.
That's how it is on the website, I think.
Oh, it's very large like that. It's like this, and go up, like keep going up, David. It's like this monolith structure that's all painted.
Funny,
it's
like,
freaking dope, dude. It's really cool.
Thank you. Originally, I wanted that to be all batten board formed concrete. I just love that look. And this was a sort of lesson in my first solo design build. That was going to be like an extra $100,000 to do that. Same thing, like this foyer right here. I wanted that to be all glass. I remember the builder, my sort of mentor, looking at my plans and just laughing. Like, what are you laughing at? Well, we'll review your budget when we get to the window guy. That was all glass at one point, but yeah, it ended up working out perfectly because I wanted to have the mural on it, and I'm glad that that's not concrete. I'm glad that we have Basque putting that on there.
I think that's the conversation everyone's having now, right? Like costs are so expensive, land is expensive, debt is very expensive, and of course construction is very expensive. And so it's like, how do you create the best design possible, authentic design, good materials, but not have to spend millions of dollars to do it?
Yep.
It sounds like
using materials that make sense in Florida, stucco, metal roof, and just finding a way to make them your own, right?
Let's wrap this thing up. AADMIXX.com, AADMIXX.com. You can find entries on there. Everything we spoke about today regarding AADMIXX is on the website. And then you guys are on social too, right?
Yep.
Instagram.
Just at AADMIXX.
At AADMIXX. Check them out, everybody. Tobin, Thanks again, man.
Thank you again for having me, man. Anytime. I hope we can do it again before 2 years.
100%. Let's make it sooner. All right. That's it. Bye, everybody. See you next week.